Hello there. You're listening to Family Planet365. I'm your host, Malena Jackson, and welcome to my 10th episode. Yay! Happy 10th episode to us. 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 Where does the time go? I tell you, you know what? That is certainly worth singing about because it is not an easy feat to get this show up and going every Friday at 11, all for you to empower and uplift families here in the Santa Clarita Valley and pretty much all over the world because we're available on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, you name it, you can find us. Just Google Family Planet 365. But thank you so much for tuning in each week. I have so much to share, and honestly, we've only just begun. Our topic today is life insurance and the benefits of planning your memorial. Yup. Planning your memorial while you're alive. How cool is that, right? Talk about empowerment. Well, today's show is brought to you by the Nanny Factory. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Do you have plans? Contact the Nanny Factory to learn more about the Nanny Registry. It's perfect for parents who want a night out on the town or just need some time away without the hassle of juggling. Who's going to take care of the kids? Visit the website at thenannyfactory.com to learn more. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Family Planet 365 on AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Malena Jackson, and today we are going to talk about a topic that you might have, it might have you feeling some kind of way. I know for me, at first, talking about life and death, I'm like, the two don't go together, but after I became a mom, I quickly realized that two things are certain in life: that you will be born and that you will expire. So at first, I had a hard time dealing with this fact, especially, you think about your kids, you don't want to leave your kids. But then I embraced the idea and decided to do something about it. So let me ask you, how many of you are walking around without life insurance? Do you even know what life insurance is? I know some of you moms might hit the Pilates studio like once a week, twice a week, sometimes 5 times a week, but you just never know what's going to happen. You might be in good health one day and then the next, what do you do? So you might be asking, well, what are the benefits of having life insurance? What about death? Where will you be put to rest? What kind of memorial service do you want? Have you thought about what dress you might want to be put in? I know this is not like what we normally talk about, welcoming a new baby or, sending your child to preschool like we talked about last week, but it is my job to uplift and empower you with information and resources that you can use to help you live the best life now. And believe it or not, planning for your death is living your best life now because it gives you peace of mind and puts you at ease. So our first guest today is a life insurance expert. Go figure, right? We have Robert Barkle here. He is going to talk to us about his company, Gotcha Covered. And to give you a little bit more about Robert, he lives here in Santa Clarita Valley. He's been a resident for 8 years. He lives with his wife and 15-year-old daughter. He's a graduate of Cal State Northridge with a BS in business. That's helpful. And he has a significant background in sales management, insurance. And his company is Gotcha Covered. It specializes in life, disability, and long-term care. He works with several top-rated carriers to identify the most effective policy for each individual. So I like to say that means it's not one size fits all. Welcome, Robert Barkle. How are you?
Hey, really good. I just want to thank K-Hits and Malena for having me in today. And I need to add one thing to what Malena said. There is taxes involved there in death. So just wanted to say that.
Okay, well, thank you for giving us the heads up. Well, first, Robert, tell me a little bit about how did you get involved in the insurance business?
Well, I got involved with a need of helping people not do what I did. When I was in my early 30s, I thought I was bulletproof. I went on to get married and have a child and decided, I really need to get some life insurance. And I found out that I actually had a medical condition that I didn't know about that prevented me from getting it. Now, had I got life insurance earlier in life when it was more optimal, I would have been fine. So one of the things I like to do is talk to people and really help them not do what I did.
So when you say, what is life insurance? Let's just clarify that.
Life insurance basically is sharing the risk. In life insurance vernacular, you're you're spending some money and you're transferring the risk of your passing onto the insurance company. It actually got started in the U.S. in Philadelphia when a bunch of homeowners got together and they decided, well, if one of our homes burned down, the deal is everybody helps that individual build their home. And that was one of the first concepts behind life insurance.
Okay, so I get that we have life insurance, and when I think of life insurance, I'm thinking you're insuring your life. So what about when you're living? Because a lot of people, I know for me, for many years, I had a hard time contemplating whether or not to invest in life insurance, because it's like, if when I die, I don't care. So what would you say, as far as what should we invest in life insurance? Because I know for a lot of families, when they see insurance salesman come their way, they they run, because it's like, our money, we have kids, we are trying to pay the mortgage, we have bills. That's one extra thing to pay for when there's no guarantee. Like, I might be paying on my life insurance for the next 60 years. And hey, that's a long time. So if you would tell us what would be at the minimum for us to consider as far as life insurance.
Well, that is correct. If you really want to end a conversation with someone, just tell them you're in the life insurance business. But the way I like to think about it is, if we plan for our medical protection, we plan for our kids going to college, our financial retirement. But if we're honest with ourselves and we look out ahead and we ask the question, what would happen to my family or my spouse if I weren't here? And if you go through that motion, it may not be pretty. So that's where we come into play. Secondly, there are some kinds of life insurance that actually build cash value. So it's a hybrid product, so you can actually use some of those revenues in retirement if you don't need the life insurance component. In terms of how much, one rule of thumb is 10 times your income. Okay. Another consideration is, what kind of lifestyle would you want your family or spouse to have in your passing? Is there a mortgage to pay off? Is there a lot of debt? Are you concerned about their downsizing their life? Maybe your kids won't be able to go to college, those kind of things. So we help people come up with a number, and really the bottom line can be is, what can you afford?
Well, that's interesting that you mention that, because one of the reasons I decided to take on life insurance, I was just concerned about who's going to pay for my funeral. Growing up in the South, a lot of times when people die, it's like, oh, well, we don't know. The funeral is going to, say the person died on Tuesday. Sometimes the funeral is not till 2 weeks from now, because that person didn't have life insurance, or they didn't figure out or plan how they were going to get their funeral paid for. And I just watched too many times, in my family, we're trying to raise money for the funeral, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? This person's been dead now for 2 weeks, and there still hasn't been a memorial. And I must say, now I am impressed. I don't know if it's technology or just with people becoming more educated, but I'm learning that a lot of times when someone passes now, they'll pass on a Tuesday, their funeral's on Friday, which is really cool to me. So that was one of my concerns, moms, that, when I decided to take out life insurance, I was like, I want to be able to have, there's this cool spot that I picked out at Eternal Valley. It's kind of like this hidden gem. You can't see it from the highway. Eternal Valley, and we're going to have our general manager, Curtis Woods, from Eternal Valley a little later, but Eternal Valley is a beautiful cemetery off the 14 here in Southern California, if you're coming towards Santa Clarita. And we actually drive in there sometimes, my kids and I, and just we take a seat and we chill. It's so peaceful. I know this might sound weird. I post pictures on Instagram and people are like, Malena, you're in the cemetery with your children. But we're actually thinking, we go there to dream. We're by the time we get here, we want to make sure that we've lived and that we've pursued everything that we want to pursue in life. Because once you get here, I don't know about reincarnation. That's another story, another show. But I'm thinking, I want to be complete. But I have picked out the area that I would like to be laid to rest. And I'm hoping that my husband agrees, because it's not your traditional Tombstone. It's like this beautiful river, like a creek runs through it. There are benches there. It's awesome. And I'm thinking, this is a great place for my kids and their children to come visit me eventually, if they decide to do that. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. I decided to get life insurance, not because I'm like, I want the family to be taken care of. And I think they will be with the amount that, they'll get if I expire. But I'm really at peace because I know that if something were to happen before the 65 years, that the family won't be scrambling trying to figure out how, what kind of casket I'm going to have and who's going to pay for it and so forth. So you talk about utilizing the life insurance while you're alive as far as retirement, Robert. What are some other ways that we can be smart about the life insurance policy? I mean, should we just pay for it and, just leave it be? Or can we be smart? Can it help us buy a home?
Well, it sure can. If it's term life insurance, which basically just has a beginning and end, if you get deep into the policy, you definitely don't want to cancel it because that's when you're most vulnerable. So that's not a good financial decision. In terms of buying a home, that's a bit of a stretch, but if you had a cash value policy, you could use that downstream for a down payment on a home or to help your child through college. So that's that. Also, people that buy life insurance, they are setting themselves up for a financial legacy for their loved ones. Having done that, you can be more generous to yourself how you spend your retirement, how you spend your 401k, because you know that your financial legacy is assured. And even in cases when you have life insurance, final expense insurance is a great idea because it keeps your financial legacy intact, and also I think it keeps a few feuds with family members at bay.
How is that? How does it do that?
Well, I remember when my wife's father passed and the 3 kids, and they were wondering what credit cards to put it on and how much to spend and what's right to spend and where to go. And that's just the worst time to make decisions when you're in the midst of a loss like that. Okay,
so are you saying then, is that something that the will or estate planning would cover that part of the arguing and trying to decide which credit card to use? I mean, I'm kind of confused as far as life insurance versus the will, or is it one and the same?
No, wills generally just stipulate where certain assets go, but I've never seen one that actually, delineated how the final arrangements were going to be made or the costs involved.
Okay, well then how do we utilize our life insurance to plan what costs are involved? So we have the life insurance policy. Can we go ahead and plan for the memorial now or the funeral? Can we do that? Because if you can't pull money from the insurance policy until I guess the person insured is expired. Is that correct?
Right. Well, I think Curtis here today is going to talk about that from Dignity Memorial. You can go beyond just assuring that there's some money there. You can actually set in motion some plans, put them down. So under those terrible times, everything goes pretty smoothly and everybody, feels good about it.
Okay, I like that. And what would you say, Robert, to families who are expanding, like, they might have a baby, so they have life insurance, but then they have another child and they're adding to their family. Do you need to update your life insurance policy when you have more children?
Oh, absolutely. And some varieties of life insurance have a covenant which allow you to increase the benefit amount. Also, many of our folks we work with, they layer. They'll buy a policy that they feel comfortable with when they get married and they have their first child, and as their income grows and their family grows, they layer additional on top of that, and it all adds up where they need to be. Okay,
and then I like what you said, layering, because I never heard of that. How often should you meet with your life insurance representative?
About once a year is a good rule of thumb.
Okay, so I guess you initiate that meeting to discuss where you are. Is this package still working for us? That sort of thing. Robert, what about insuring your children? Is that something you would recommend, or is that included in the policy?
Well, it's not included in a basic policy. We do recommend it for two reasons. One is it becomes a tax advantage for them when they get older. And it's something that, if it's the right plan, it's something that they can draw upon later in life to maybe get a down payment on their first house, or even assist them in getting through college.
Oh, I like that. So tell me about that policy. What is the name of that?
Well, you could call it whole life. You could call it permanent. You could call it universal life, which is a variation of that. I have one set up for my daughter and my niece and my nephew, and we estimate by the time they get to college age, they'll have some money there to, give them a really great start.
I love that idea. I didn't think about that. Wow. Okay. Robert, tell us, how can we reach you if our listeners have questions, or is there a website we can go to analyze what type of insurance we should have? How can we reach you, Robert?
Well, you can go to www.gotchacovered.solutions, and I'm at 818-425-4376.
All right. Okay, well, when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to close out. Any last words with Mr. Robert Barkle from Gotcha Covered. And then we're going to bring on Curtis Woods, who is the general manager of Eternal Valley Cemetery and Mortuary. More when we come back.